Okay, we're gonna put it like this. I know renters who are millionaires and I know house poor homeowners. So when somebody tells me that owning a home is better than renting, I have to stop them right there. I have to stop them right there because it can be capped when you're talking to a person like me. Owning a home can be better than renting, and renting can be better than owning a home. Everything is situational, everything is subjective. Owning a home versus renting. Now, this is a topic I wanted to cover for a long time, but we're here now. I almost don't know where to start, so let's just put it like this. I've been a homeowner now for a month and a half, almost 2 months. And let me tell you this, I've been to Home Depot more times than I'm willing to admit. I can't stop going to Home Depot because I own a home and I have to maintain that home. When you're a renter, you don't have to worry about that. When you're renting, your landlord has to take care of that, or your HOA has to take care of that. When you own a home, you have to cut grass, pull weeds, rake leaves, trim trees, pay your water, pay your taxes. There are so many variables that goes into home ownership that doesn't go into renting. When you're renting, in most cases, you have a fixed monthly amount. So you have your rent and everything is typically bundled into that rent. So you may have your HOA fee that's bundled into your rent. You may have your gas and your water and your electric that's bundled into your rent. In most cases, I know sometimes it's different, right? Every time I rented, everything was bundled in, except for the last time where we had to pay our own electric and we had to pay our own garbage and recycling. But most of the time, like I said, everything's bundled into that rent. So that's a pro when it comes to renting. Another pro when it comes to renting is that you can just get up and leave whenever you feel like it. You can literally break your lease. It may cost you upwards of $500 for inconveniencing your landlord, but you can do that. Otherwise, you'd have to wait till your lease is up, right? And most leases range from 6 months to 2 years, which is a short window of time. So even if you wait it out till your lease is up, you can pick up and you can move somewhere else. That's convenient. Whereas with home ownership, you can't just pick up and leave. You cannot just pick up and leave. I mean, you can just pick up and leave, don't get me wrong, but you would have to sell your home unless you just balling like that where you can just leave this house here and go buy another house. But if you're anything like me, you can't just pick up and leave. So owning a home typically ties you to one geographical location. And that's an inconvenience for a lot of people. It's not easy to sell a house all the time, right? In this market, in the seller's market, it's extremely easy to sell a house, but every time you can't just, okay, I think I want to move now, let's sell this house, and it sells tomorrow. Like, that's not how that works. With owning a home, you have to clean it back up, you have to put it back in good shape, make it marketable, so when you put it on the market, people who are trying to buy that home are intrigued by what they see, therefore you'd have a faster sell. But that's potentially a lot of work. So back to the yard work, you have to make sure the yard is in tip-top shape. You have to make sure the exterior of the home, right? So you'd have to pressure wash the house, clean the windows, anything that needs to be fixed, you have to do that to make that house desirable. You also have to deal with strangers coming in and out of your home as you're trying to sell it, right? With showings, and you have to hire a realtor. Most of the time, I know not every time, but most of the time people hire a realtor to make the sale a little bit easier for them. So you have to deal with a realtor, you have to deal with strangers walking in and out of your house as you're trying to sell it. You have to deal with being inconvenienced because if a sale is about to happen or if somebody's inquiring about your house while you're trying to sell it, you may have to pick up a phone call or answer an email or a text while you're busy, and it can be very overwhelming for a lot of people. So that way it again it's a lot of work, and that can be looked at as a con because again, you have to clean up your house every go round. For every showing, you have to spruce it up, make sure it's nice. So with staging and with making sure certain things are in place and making sure that people don't steal as they're walking through your house, it's a lot. It's a lot. And like I said, that can be looked at as a con when it comes to home ownership, but when you're a renter, you do not have to deal with any of that. Another hang up or con I would say about home ownership is, let's say you have a raccoon in your attic or a squirrel in your attic, or you have to deal with that. You have to call Orkin or pest control or whatever, come out of your pocket to pay to have those pests removed. If you're a renter, you're calling your landlord for that. Yeah, we got some pests up in the attic. Come handle that. Thank you. You see the difference there? Now, as far as a con for renting, you can't build equity. You don't have ownership. Your landlord pretty much lets you know what you can and can't do. You can't put certain holes in the wall. So if you want to decorate your living room with all these paintings and all these extra things where you have to either nail something down or screw something down, you can't do that without permission. If you're a renter, you can do it without permission, but more than likely you will be billed for that. You will have to pay for that. Also, when you're a renter, another con is people say your rent increases all the time. Now, rent does increase. I wouldn't say all the time. It increases sometimes by a very marginal amount. In some states, they have rent control where you just have a fixed amount and it never goes up and it just stays right there, right? So like I said, everything is super subjective, but typically rent does go up. And when it does go up, people look at that as a con. But what I always say is with home ownership, your taxes go up all the time. So for the landlord who actually owns the home, when they taxes go up, they offset that by increasing your rent. Another con when it comes to renting, for all my dog lovers out there, almost everybody and their mama has a dog. If you're renting, every landlord do not accept dogs, right? Most of them only accept small dogs. So if you're running around here with Beethoven, ain't no way you'd have a safe place for your dog. And if they do allow it, you'd be lucky, but there would also be a pet fee attached. With home ownership, you wouldn't have to worry about that. So in that regard, owning a home is better than renting. Another con when it comes to renting is that your landlord, the owner of the place you're renting, can sell their house anytime they please. They own it. They can do whatever they want. So if they decide to sell their house while you're renting there, you're either subjected to a brand new landlord who you might not get along with, or you might be just completely displaced and have to find a new place to rent because he's just selling the house and the person who's buying it isn't necessarily going to use it as a rental property. So in that regard, home ownership is better than renting. I can go on and on about the pros and the cons of every situation. Both scenarios have pros and cons, but like I said, it's subjective to every person's situation. There was a time where renting was perfect for me. And to put this into a little more perspective, when I was renting, I was able to literally live on 23% of my income. Now that I own a home, I'm still able to live on a significant amount, right? I'm at 50% now. So from renting, I was living on 23% of my income and doing whatever I wanted to do with the other 77%, which is crazy. That's how I was able to save money so fast, pay off debt so fast, build wealth so fast, do all these other extra things. But now that I own a home, I have to live on 50% of my income for the moment while I increase my income, because at the same time, y'all know what my mission is. I'm trying to retire early. I told y'all before, 42 at the latest, and we're well on track to do that. But when you're owning a home, there's so many expenses, and that's the main part. The maintenance alone will stop people from owning a home. Then when you add the taxes in there, that just makes people say, forget it. I'd rather just rent because I can do whatever I want to do. So that way renting is better than owner. Like I said, it's subjective. So you have to keep every aspect in mind. I'm pro ownership. I'm pro home ownership. I love real estate. My favorite part about home ownership is the fact that you can build equity. Put 3% down on something and that asset makes you money. You can almost treat your house like a bank because they have a thing called a HELOC, or a home equity line of credit, that you can tap into if you need it, if you're responsible with it. Right now, I've been in my home for a month and a half, and let me tell you, this market has been treating me well, treating me and my wife well, I should say. $13,000 in equity in 3 weeks. Now, I ain't gonna be sharing these numbers constantly, but $13,000 that has built up in the first 3 weeks of us living here, and here we are a month and a half, is gradually going up week over week, just based on the market that we're in right now. So real estate fluctuates. I understand that there's uptrends and downtrends, but at the moment you have the opportunity to build equity, build wealth, and you have an asset that you can pass down to future generations. So that's what I love about home ownership the most. But while I was renting, let me not leave this out, it was great. It was great, and I didn't feel no type of way. So what I want you to get from this really is to do what works best for you. Don't let nobody tell you what's best for you. Only you know that. Only you know that. Like I said, I know renters who are millionaires, and I know house poor homeowners who's literally working to pay for their house, and that's trash. That's trash. Before I bought my house, I said that's one thing I will never do. I know people personally who can't afford to keep up with their home, right? They're late on their mortgage payments. So that way you're subjected to potentially being foreclosed on, which is terrible. You have to sell your home for pennies on a dollar, or the bank just takes it from you. So that's another con when it comes to home ownership. If you can't pay your taxes on time, you only get 3 years of back taxes before you have to, you know what I'm saying? You mess around and get your property seized that way. You have to make sure that you can actually afford it. And actually affording it doesn't mean you can afford the down payment. It doesn't mean that you can get into the property. It means that you can afford the down payment, get into the property, and maintain the property over the course of 30 years. 30 years. Yes, some do 15, 20. For for the most part, most people do 30-year mortgages on their home, and that's what I have. So we have to maintain this thing for 30 years unless you pay it off faster, which, you know what I'm saying, that's another video for another time. But let me know in the comments if you currently rent, if you own a home, which one do you prefer? Let's continue this conversation in the comments, and like this video if you like it. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't. Also follow me on IG, Q Makes It Happen, on Instagram. Join the Q crew. Click the join button, join my accountability group where you get more one-on-one with me, exclusive content, and it's also a way to support the channel. I go by the name of Q, and like I always say, if Q can make it happen, you can make it happen. I'll let y'all next video. Peace.